Hello, everyone. I want to share my story of what it's like to lose your dad. So, losing my dad was quite a journey because it wasn't like I lost my dad unexpectedly. It was more like it was really a roller coaster ride because my dad, like when I was in college, my dad had he ended up getting the diagnosis of cancer. And he didn't tell me or my mom or, my siblings. Like, he didn't even say anything. I mean, he just fought it by himself and he beat it through the radiation treatments. And then it wasn't until sometime later when I was working in the corporate world. I was at a financial firm working. And then I found out that my dad, that because my dad had drank and been an alcoholic for several years, which I didn't know too much about. I mean, I knew my dad would have a drink. I've seen him have beers and I see him smoke and stuff like that. Like, see him smoke cigarettes and stuff. I didn't really, know he had any kind of addiction or anything like that. And alcohol, I guess it was really bad because he would drink so much to the point that he would forget different things. One time he even lost his wallet where he had made a lot of money and he lost it. So when I was working, um, I found out that my dad had kidney failure. And I didn't know this. And my dad held this from me and my siblings. And he just kind of held it off by himself. I guess he felt like he needed to fight it alone or something like that. And so I got FMLA from work to help him. So I would go with him to his. I couldn't go into the dialysis facility because it was during COVID, but I could be outside the facility and make sure that he got home safely and stuff and things. He wasn't supposed to drive, but he wanted to do it anyway. So um, I'm glad that I was able to do that. And if you have the opportunity, please, please, please go with your loved one to their doctor's appointments because, you know, it's important to be there. Even if they hide things from you, it's important to be there because you may not get all the information from them that you need to get, but you can get it from their doctors. So, as it turns out, the job that I had the FMLA from during COVID, they ended up firing me. And so we'll fast forward um, a little bit. And I found myself working in a new job. And I was a temporary at this job as a contractor at another financial firm. And at this particular job, um, I had found out that I knew my dad had kidney failure and things. He was going to dialysis and stuff. I knew that. And I didn't know that there were some times that my dad skipped going to dialysis and stuff. And he had other health stuff going on too. And my dad took a lot of medicines. He had like 13 medicines that he was on that he had to keep track of. And sometimes he wouldn't even keep track of the medicine. And he had high blood pressure too. And, there's a lot of things my dad really hid when it came to his health, because he wanted to show us how strong he was and all that. So I am at work and stuff. And since I was a contractor, I couldn't take leave from this job because that wasn't an option. So one day I get a call that my dad, that basically my dad was rushed to the hospital. So my dad called my brother and he was freaking out. He was like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. That's what my dad said. And my brother goes over to my dad's house, and my dad is beside himself. And then, like, my brother calls the ambulance, and they get him to the hospital. And I was my dad's power of attorney. So anything that needed to be done, I needed to do. So, like, I needed to make decisions on, because my dad wanted me to do that. I didn't want to, but I did. So, um, so I had to make a decision that day for my dad to have an operation, because my dad had a brain bleed, and it was a stroke that was a bleeding stroke. So I had to make the call, and the doctor was like, if you don't make a decision soon about what you need to do, then your dad could die. Luckily, I gave the doctor the authorization to do the surgery. When I came to the hospital, after that, I mean, my dad was alive, but I got the heartbreaking news that my dad would never talk again. And sometime later, I found out that he was never going to leave the hospital again. So if I fast forward from that point, what I was doing when it came to my dad was that I was actually, every day I would get calls from doctors and nurses that were taking care of my dad. I would be going to the hospital every day to check on my dad and stuff. My dad even had to have this thing put into his throat and stuff for him to breathe and stuff. And he still had the kidney failure and stuff. And also on top of that, my dad still had cancer, and the cancer had come back and it was more aggressive. So that didn't help either. So my dad would be in the hospital for, I'd say, about a few months. And every day I was just so physically drained after, like, every day I would pass out to sleep because of how stressed I was with everything I had to do to, the authorizations I have to give for different procedures for my dad's medicines. I would be briefing on how he was doing, all that. And it was so draining. And one day I was at work, and I know they wanted to put my dad in hospice. And I didn't want to do it, but I had to. And I did have to sign a document to for them to remove his medicines and stuff. Trust me, guys, this story is a lot deeper than it. There's a lot more. There's a lot more that goes into this. But I was at work one day, and I got the text message from my sister that my dad had passed away.